Hulk in miniature form, or a Brazilian Omar Savori Puskás hybrid destined to redefine the modern game? Just how good is Endrick?
Final, Rafael Veiga, boa esticada pro Endrick, vai invadir a área para fazer o gol.
After experiencing an extensive goal drought throughout the season, Endrick scored 2 goals and added an assist in a 4-3 comeback win against title rivals Botafogo, a crucial win for the title, and it allowed Palmeiras to move 3 points behind them, who were then top of the table. And it marked a turning point for the club's fortunes, but also Endrick's in terms of his perception as a goal threat. What is undeniable is that Endrick has always had an eye for the spectacular, and some of his goals do take the breath away. His long-range shooting, particularly with the valve hit technique, with a slight bit of instep and toe, is deadly, especially when he's hitting it towards the goalkeeper's near post when he cuts across from the right. He generates power with very little backlift, and it seems to catch opponents off guard. There's a Douglas Costa-esque element to it. There's also footage of him striking from range with his weak foot, which hits the post, and that's mightily impressive. But there's no doubt that Endrick does try as much as he can to keep it onto his left, but it would be nice, obviously, if he explores that development of his weak foot further. In terms of his range of finish, we know that he likes a drilled finish, but can he finesse the ball? At the moment, that doesn't seem like a go-to finish for Endrick, but I wouldn't be surprised if he eventually masters that technique, showcases it more as he cuts in from the right. In terms of poaching, Endrick does like to get into the right areas. He is capable of scoring tap-ins. Whilst I wouldn't say he has a natural feel for this part of the game like Roque, I do think Endrick has a natural desire for goal scoring. He's not a Gabriel Jesus who doesn't care about goal scoring, so I think that alone will push Endrick into wanting to get onto the end of chances, even if it's a bit outside his comfort zone.
Com aquele jogo pouco mais longo, né? Olha que jogadaça do Endrick.
Statistically, Endrick's dribbling is not awe-inspiring like you'd assume of a Brazilian wonderkid who's been described as the next Neymar. Now, his age has to be taken into account. A 16 to 17-year-old boy dribbling against grown men isn't likely to be hitting a 60% success rate like your Messis and Neymars in their prime. And as he grows, you'd assume that the precision of his dribble, his ability to ride challenges and protect the ball would improve as he physically gets stronger, which will then elevate his success rate. Now, ignoring what it would become and focusing on the here and now, I'd say at the moment, his range of skill doesn't hit the same heights as a young Neymar or Ronaldo Fenomeno or Ronaldinho. They had a range of skill which took the breath away. It kind of broke the dimensions of what's physically possible in football. Endrick right now seems more of a hybrid of the Argentinian style, the Gambetta, and Brazilian. He reminds me more of a Puskás Rivellino hybrid where it's more laces, feints, pure bursts of speed, but when the situation demands it, he can pull off some outrageous pieces of skill, rather than that being his default method of how to beat a player. At the moment, there's been a handful of performances where Endrick's dribbling looks so clean, it's kind of blinded fans to the rawness of his game. As we assess the footage, he overran with the ball quite often. There was a lot of sloppy touches. There was a flimsiness to his game, which reminds you that he is a young teenager playing against men, yet in other games he does look like a grown man. Now, add the fact that he's playing in a weaker league at the moment, I think it shows that patience needs to be exercised when it comes to the development of his game and the expectation level. If we recall Messi's performance versus Juve in 2005, it was against world-class players, and he looked tiers above those players with effortless ease, aged 18. I don't see Endrick making that same impact for Madrid straight away. I think he needs more time than Messi did to make his dribbling as precise and powerful as a young Messi.
Na direita tem o Mike com opção. Endrick adiantou demais por baixo. Lemos chega rasgando o Endrick.
O professor de jogo Jacomini está ali orientando seus jogadores. Endrick, belo calcanhar do Endrick para o Piquet.
In terms of his link-up, I don't think the stats do Endrick justice. He's got aura in possession, he's got pausa that cannot be denied, that trademark Brazilian playfulness running through his veins where he can use the sole of his foot to kill the ball dead and then roll on it, buying himself time to lay it off effectively. Even when he's running the channels and there's a player in his back, he can one time just Ronaldo chop it to a teammate, or if the ball's a bit aerial, Messi-esque chest, flick it over someone's head. A lot of options in terms of how he chooses to link up play, and generally based on the eye test, I'm pretty impressed with his maturity and his balance between progression and playing it safe. Could he play as a number 10? Well, his passing accuracy does need some work, but his ability to receive on the half turn, his ability to slow down the game, I think false 9, number 10, support striker, inside forward, all of these positions are potentially open to him. His use of 1-2s and the disguise with how he plays those passes into teammates and then moves off to receive it, very natural, very aesthetically pleasing. he would fit into many elite modern possession sides with this approach. I don't think he's a greedy player. I think he's a natural team player who enjoys linking up as well as doing his own thing. In that sense, reminds me potentially of a Brazilian Antoine Griezmann.
Paulino, mas ele falou que hoje ele, junto com a esposa dele, a Elaine, ele é...
In terms of Endrick's defending, the way Palmeiras play, at times he's told to just loiter in the attack, hover by the right wing and not have to track back as much. Having said that, he's shown energy and desire in the press to win the ball, generally pretty effective in defensive situations, able to utilise that stocky, tiny frame to accelerate into defenders and make them feel very uncomfortable on the ball. I think there's a lot of work obviously to be done to convert him into an elite pressing machine, but I think the fundamental tools are there in terms of athleticism, speed, and due to his age, he's going to have a certain humility, which means he's going to want to run through doors and do whatever it takes to become the best in the game. And I think Real Madrid need to play on that fact.
Disputa, chega, ganha dele, o Rezende.
Posta grande ali, comprou briga com muita gente, confiando no time.
Statistically, from a creative perspective, Endrick is not racking up many assists. And for someone who's being touted as Brazil's future number 10, that's surely alarming. And what's behind such a mediocre stat? Well, I think it comes down to his decision as to when to make the pass and the weighting of the pass. Both are very undercooked at this moment in time. And once again, if we refer him to young Messi, the young Argentine's decision making seemed to be ahead of its time, whereas Endrick strikes you as quite immature, where he feels that everything is possible, but in reality, a lot of these killer pass opportunities are not really realistic, are not really on. From a positive perspective, kid's got vision. You can see that he's got that peripheral vision. He spots things, and we know that he's got a wonderful left foot, so he just kind of needs to be fine-tuned, needs to be calmed down a bit, only hit through balls when the percentage for it to be successful is higher than it being intercepted, and more importantly, the weighting of the pass needs to be immaculate. Knowing how much pace and spin to put on it is key if he wants to be remembered as a legend of the game. If he can't master it, then a role in a central region for a team at an elite level seems unlikely. So there's a lot riding on this particular attribute and its development. Hey guys, wondering what software we use to produce the state-of-the-art telestration graphic software on this video? Download Play by Metrica Sports, the essential tool for every coach and analyst. Use the link in the description to access Metrica's website and then apply the code Pythagoras in Boots at the checkout for a 10% discount. Statistically, Endrick's aerial prowess looks abysmal. Now, bearing in mind his height, age, you shouldn't really be surprised if Endrick isn't really offering anything of substance from an aerial perspective. But it is slightly concerning because ultimately Endrick may not be a winger, and if he wants to operate in more central areas, you can't really avoid confrontations in the air. But what about the eye test? Is he a total write-off? Well, no, he's pulled off some brilliant headers when he poaches in the 6-yard area and gets onto the end of crosses which are bouncing awkwardly in the corridor of uncertainty. I wouldn't quite call him Henrik Larsson just yet, but there's definitely a type of header that he feels comfortable with, and it's that one where it's a less of a duel which relies on a physical duel, but plays on the fact that he's agile, nimble, small of stature, and able to get himself low to meet that cross more easily than a big centre forward. In terms of long ball duels, it's not always half-hearted attempts. There have been successful flick-ons or big leaps to try and meet the ball, especially when the ball's coming at a more diagonal angle. It's just that he can be overpowered quite easily, especially if it's a straight-on vertical ball and he has to back into a defender. Overall, I would be surprised if he became a full-on number 9, but I do think there's some growth to be seen in this regard as he puts on a little bit more size and gets more experience of playing in the men's game.
Aí o Mike dá balão na bola, vem pra disputa.
Mike para Endrick. Bela fatiada de bola buscando o Piquerez.
In terms of his long passing, Endrick stats are once again not mind-blowing, but the eye test, I genuinely really like Endrick's long passing. He's got a wonderful switch of play. Yes, at times it can be a tad floaty, but I think he's got complex long passes in his locker. He can also hit passes down the line where he finds a teammate on the overlap who runs in behind a fullback who's pushed too far forward. I think rather like a Harry Kane, long-term, Endrick has it in his locker to be a forward who drops off, play makes, switches the play, redirects the attacking phase with a quality long pass. Seeing how comfortable he is at doing it at such a young age, I can only see this attribute going from strength to strength.
Tocando a bola atrás, recomeça. Bola de pé em pé, lançamento.
Ah, tá mal demais,
Tá
imagina.
mal ele, hein?
Endrick, mano a mano, lateral da área, faz o levantamento.
Moving away from killer balls, another source of creativity that Endrick offers is his crossing ability. He's got a wonderful inverted cross which carves open the opposition, and he can almost put the ball on a sixpence. Now, another Brazilian with a killer left foot who loved crossing from half spaces and was a second striker was Rivaldo. And whilst Rivaldo's crosses were arguably more effective coming in from the left, I think Endrick would generally be well advised to continue honing his striking technique to match up to that great Brazilian who seemed to be able to cross in a variety of manners from anywhere on the pitch. From the left side, when we have seen Endrick cross, we haven't seen a large deal of whipped crosses, but he has a wonderful flighted delivery, and his ability to float crosses tantalizingly is something to behold. In terms of drill crosses, there's an absence of footage, and as he's a left footer playing predominantly down the right, it's rare that we get to see him drill across weak foot crosses. He has shown that he can do it, but it's something that I reckon he's going to be forced to do more often, as I don't think he's going to get as much space in the European game to just, drop deep and play in inverted crosses. Once again, something that I think if he masters could be a difference maker as to how effective he is in the business end of the leading tournaments in football. Tactically, Palmeiras predominantly playing a 4-2-3-1, but since Endrick's featured as a starter, they've started to shift to two striker formations, the more common of which has been the 3-4-1-2. In that formation, Endrick has featured as the second striker, playing off the right. Now, we know that he's moving to Madrid, so where could he fit in, and what's the optimal formation for Endrick? I think one option is the 4-3-3 false 9, where if Madrid did sign an Mbappe, Endrick or Rodrigo could feature as the false 9, and Mbappe and Vini take roles out wide, and Jude Bellingham plays in behind. Another option is a 4-3-2-1, where he plays as an inside forward from the right, Vini plays from the left, and an Mbappe or Rodrigo go up front. I think for that to work, it would really need an overlapping right back like a Hakimi in his prime, where he takes care of holding the flank, and that gives Endrick the freedom to drift inside. In conclusion, Endrick is undoubtedly a huge talent with a lot of different weapons in terms of how he can hurt the opposition. He's not just a goal scorer but a creator too, and whilst the stats do not seem to indicate that just yet, the eye test suggests that when he matures, he could be a hybrid of your Savori, Puskás, Griezmann type of footballers, players that combine precise flair finishes, wonderful link-up play, and a way of storytelling in the final third, despite being more attacking than your orthodox number 10. The big question mark that Endrick has to answer is how he physically develops. He already looks pretty developed for his age, but I think Europe is a big step up to the level of defenders he's currently facing, and the expectation of Madrid will obviously be that he can conquer the best players in the world. Madrid have proven with the likes of Vinicius, Rodrigo, that they can develop these players from promising lightweight Brazilian wonderkids into the real deal. When Barca signed Neymar, it's not like he flopped either. Even someone like Robinho was a pretty damn good player, despite what the naysayers say. So the chances of these Brazilian wonderkids being total flops is quite low. So we have his bottom level by the end of his career being similar to a current level of a Mohamed Kudus, a group stage, early Champions League type of player. We can't see how by his mid-20s, he can't hit that level as a bare minimum. The big question is, what's the maximum that he can become? I think if his power can improve, his ability to ride challenges, his pass appreciation, all becomes better, he could become one of the best footballers in the world and a future Ballon d'Or contender. I think he's got that natural football feel. He's got that street vibe that the best Brazilian players have. I think the worst case scenario for Endrick tactically going to Madrid would be being used as a pure winger, doing donkey work out wide. Or if Madrid did sign Haaland and Mbappe, I think it'd be quite hard to see how they fit all of these players into one side, and Endrick's development may suffer as a result. I think he needs a good amount of game time during the next few years to iron out the deficiencies in his game and make that transition from boy wonder kid to man. Due to the multifaceted nature of his game, you'd expect him to age well and not just be reliant on pace, but his early explosiveness will be the key to making him a great of the game if he does become that. Anyway guys, hope you enjoyed the video. Please like, share and subscribe, and see you guys again next time. Bye.